All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to go over unit rates. I am on page 21. I'm going to go over page 21 and 22 for this video, and then the next video, it'll be the next two pages on constant rate of change. But for now, let's go over unit rate. We've learned unit rate in class before, but let's do a little review. We know a rate is a ratio that compares two different kinds of quantities or measurements. So we're just taking two different kinds and we're comparing them. So for this example, we're saying 3 aids for 24 students. Well, how many aids for students? Okay, so that's how it's written here. We have 3 aids per 24 students. And again, this per, or even this division sign, fraction sign, this means divide. Okay, so anytime you see a fraction like this, we always know that there's going to be division involved. Okay, so again, 3 aids for 24 students, written as 3 aids per 24 students. Then we have 135 words in 3 minutes. So again, how we write it is words per minutes. So we have 135 words per 3 minutes. And here we have 7 ads per 4 pages. Well, how many ads for 4 pages? 7 ads per 4 pages. Okay, so for problems 1, 2, and 3, all you're going to do is just write it how they wrote it here. Okay, we're writing it in ratio form. So if we go over number 1, it says 70 students per 2 teachers. So if we take a look, what did they have here? We had 3 aids for 24 students. We noticed that it was 4 students. So we know students is going to be on the bottom. So if we look here, it says 70 students per 2 teachers. So if you write it as it said, we have students, so 70 students per, which is our fraction sign, per 2 teachers. Okay, and that's our ratio form. We have 70 students per 2 teachers. Okay, so for number 2, we have 3 books in 2 months. Well, here they had 135 words in 3 minutes. So go ahead now and write your ratio form there. And then we have 7 ads per 4 pages. Again, ads per pages. Here we have $52 for 4 hours of work. So we're going to have dollars per hours of work. So go ahead and write that in ratio form. Remember, in unit rate, we're talking about a quantity with a denominator of 1. So we always want to compare. It tells us 300 miles in 6 hours. Well, unit rate, we want to know, well, how much for 1 hour? So we always are comparing to just 1. So our denominator is always going to be 1. So if we take a look at this example, it says 300 miles in 6 hours. Well, they want to know how many miles for just 1 hour. Okay, that's the unit rate. How many miles for just 1 hour? So if we set up our ratio form, 300 miles per 6 hours, we want to get to just 1 hour. So what they did here is, how do we go from 6 to 1? Well, we're going to divide it by 6, because 6 divided by 6 is 1. So if we divide the bottom, the denominator, by 6, we have to divide the numerator, or the top number, by 6 as well. So when they do that, we get 300 divided by 6 equals 50 miles. So our unit rate here, when we talk about miles and hours, well, how many miles per 1 hour? There's going to be 50 miles per 1 hour. Same thing here. It says 275 square feet in 25 minutes. So here they set up their ratio form. They want to know, what is the unit rate? So we want to get to just 1 minute. We have 25 minutes right now, but how many feet per square, or how many square feet for just 1 minute? So again, we take our 25, we're going to divide it by 25, because 25 divided by 25 equals 1. If we divide the bottom by 25, our denominator, we have to divide our numerator, or the top number, by 25 as well. So we have 275 divided by 25, and we get 11. So 11 square feet per 1 minute. That is our unit rate. So if we come down here to number 4, it says express each comparison as a unit rate, and we need to show our work. So we want to first set up our ratio form. It says 28 patients for 2 nurses. Okay, so if we set it up in our ratio form, okay, you can draw your per sign, your division. So it says 28 patients for 2 nurses. Well, if we want to figure out unit rate, you can start asking yourself, well, what is it we're trying to find? Are we trying to find patients? Are we trying to find nurses? Well, your key word here is for. So how many patients for each nurse? So we want to know how many for one nurse. So we have 2 nurses and 28 patients. 28. I'm just going to do P for patients. So right now, our ratio form would be 28 over 2. Well, to get unit rate, again, we want to know a denominator of 1. So right now we have 2 nurses, but we want to know how many for just 1 nurse. So how can we go about to just getting 1 nurse? Right, we're going to divide the denominator by 2. Because 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So if we divide the denominator by 2, we're going to divide the numerator by 2 as well. And when we do that, we get 28 divided by 2 is 14. So 28 patients for 2 nurses. Well, how many patients for just 1 nurse? We're going to have 14 patients as our unit rate. 14 patients per 1 nurse. That's our unit rate. So you guys go ahead and try number 5. If you need to pause this video, feel free to pause it, but I'm going to go ahead and keep on going. So it says, when one or both of the quantities being compared is a fraction, the rate is expressed as a complex fraction. Unit rates can be used to simplify rates containing fractions. So yes, we're going to be dealing with more fractions, but please do not be afraid. If we say 15 miles every half hour, okay, well, we still need to write it in our ratio form, so which is what they did here. They said 15 miles for every half hour, so 15 miles per half hour. Then they show the work. Well, we still want to get to 1. So if we get to 1, then what they did is multiply by the reciprocal. Because if we multiply by the reciprocal, if we do 1/2 times 2 over 1, well, doesn't that help us get 1? It does, which is why we multiply by the reciprocal. So they have 15 divided by 1/2 equals 15 over 1 times 2 over 1, because again, to get to a denominator of 1, we multiply by 2, which is what they did here. So 15 over 1 times 2 over 1 equals, well, 15 times 2 is 30, and 1 times 1 is 1. So their unit rate is 30 miles per just 1 hour. So for half an hour, they go 15 miles. And then for 1 hour, they're going to go 30 miles. So they go twice the miles. Okay, which that kind of makes sense, right? Because if we were to take an hour, divide it in half, then we would have to take 30 divided in half, and half of 30 is 15. Here we have 1/4 cup for every 2/3 minute. So again, for every 2/3 minute, so we know this is going to be our denominator, this is going to be our numerator. So if we have 1/4 divided by 2/3, okay. Again, we want to get to just 1 minute. Right now we have 2/3 minutes, but we want to get to 1. So if we were to rewrite this as 1/4 divided by 2/3, okay, just as they did here, 1/4 divided by 2/3. Well, now we go back to what we called, or what you guys mainly know as keep, change, flip. Oops. Okay, keep, change, flip. So we are going to keep 1/4, change our division to multiplication, and take the reciprocal, 2/3, which is 3/2. Okay. From here, then we can go ahead and multiply straight across. So 1 times 3 is 3, and then 4 times 2 is 8. So we get 3/8. Here we have 3/8 cups for just 1 minute. Okay. Again, we multiply by 3/2 because if we want to make this denominator as 1, we have 2/3 multiplied by 3/2. Again, if we cross cancel, 3 goes into 3 one time, 2 goes into 2 one time. And if we multiply straight across, we get 1/1, which is 1. So that's our denominator 1. That's why we multiply 1/4 by 3/2 right there, or also known as the keep change flip for a shortcut. Okay, so that's how they get 3/8 cup per 1 minute. So if we look here, it says complete to find each unit rate. We need to show our work. So it says 3 ounces for every 3/4 cup. So if we take a look, we're how many ounces for every cup? So we know it's going to be ounces over cups, and we have 3 ounces. So 3 ounces over 3/4 cup. So if you take a look at it, this problem that we're working on now is really similar to this problem. So if you get confused in my video, just kind of walk through yourself in this example right here, because these two are very similar to each other. So if we take 3 ounces per 3/4 cups, we want to get to just 1 cup. We want to know how many ounces for just 1 cup. So how do I go from 3/4 to 1? Right, multiply by the reciprocal. So again, reciprocal, you're just flipping the fraction. So multiply it by 4/3. 4 goes into 4 one time. 3 goes into 3 one time if we were to cross cancel, so we get 1. So we're going to take 3 ounces, because whatever we multiply to the bottom, so if we multiply this to the bottom, we have to multiply this by the bottom. So 3 times 4/3. Well, look at that. We can cross cancel it here. 3 goes into 3 one time, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Multiply across. And essentially we get 4/1, which is the same thing as 4 ounces for just 1 cup. Okay, so that's how we work out number 6. I'll help you set up number 7, but I want you guys to attempt number 7. Again, if we take a look here, it's going to look real similar to this problem. Okay, so if we take a look at number 7, it says 3 2/3 feet per 11/60 hour, 11/60th hour. So this per is your key word. Okay, so we're going to be comparing feet per hour. So for 7, we have feet per hour. Well, let's fill it in now. How many feet? We have 3 2/3. Well, if you want to leave it as a mixed number, you can, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it into a improper fraction. We do this by, let's see, if we have 3 2/3, we're going to take our whole number, multiply it by the denominator, add the numerator. So you have 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 2, which is 11. Keep your denominator the same. So we have 11/3. This is our improper fraction. These mean the same thing. So how many feet? We have 11/3 per, well, how many hours? It said 11/60ths. So 11/60th. So there's our feet per hour. From there, you guys are to solve for the unit rate. So again, take a look at this example, see what they did. Remember, unit rate is a denominator of 1. How are you going to go from having 11/60ths in the denominator to just having 1 hour? Okay. Moving on to page 22. this is more practice and problem solving. As you see, they did number 1 here. It says to make 2 loaves of banana bread, Leandra needs 6 eggs. How many eggs are needed to make just 1 loaf of banana bread? So they're comparing eggs per banana bread. That's what they're trying to figure out. And this is real life, because when we bake, and especially now that we're quarantined, people are cooking and baking a lot more. So this will come helpful to you guys. You guys can help in the kitchen by doing the math. So they're comparing 6 eggs for 2 loaves. Well, if they just want to make 1 more banana bread or 1 more loaf, how are we going to go from 2 loaves to 1 loaf? What do we do? Well, we're going to divide, right? That's what they did here. They got 2 and they divided it by 2 to get to 1, because 2 divided by 2 is 1 loaf. If we divide the bottom by 2, you have to divide the top by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3 eggs. So how many eggs for just 1 loaf? Well, Leandra only needs 3 eggs to make 1 loaf of banana bread. Pretty simple, right? For number 2, it says, on his way to visit his sister at college, Greg drives 135 miles in 3 hours. What is his average rate of speed in miles per hour? So think about it. In that word problem, what are our key terms? What are we comparing? Take a minute, think about it. Okay, so it says here, Greg drives 135 miles in 3 hours. We're comparing miles per hour. With these word problems, you always want to seek out the key terms, okay? In order to figure out how to write the ratio form, it says miles per hour. So what do we have here? Miles per hours. Then we just fill it in with the numbers. Well, how many miles? We have 135 miles, which is how they wrote the ratio form here. 135 miles per how many hours? 3 hours. So we have 135 miles per 3 hours. Okay. It's your job to figure out his average rate of speed. How do we go from 3 hours to just 1 hour? What are you going to do? Okay, so go ahead and figure that out. Pause this video if you need to. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and keep on going. I think you guys are capable of doing problem number 3. I know a lot of my students get a little uncertain when it comes to decimals. So I'm going to go ahead and work on problem 4 to show you guys how it's done. It's the same concept, just it's in decimals. We're talking about cents. We're not going to talk about dollars, but cents. But it's the same exact thing. So it says, at a discount grocery store, Jessica paid 72 cents for an 8-ounce bottle of spring water. What is the cost of the spring water per ounce? Okay. Well, what are our key terms for number 4? What are we talking about? Right, we're talking about water per ounce. So what do you think our ratio form is going to be? How do we write this out? We're going to have water, right? So we're going to have water per ounce. Sorry, or I guess you could say the cost of spring water. So we're going to have cost. Here, let me go to a new page. So we are going to have cost over ounces. So a little short is just OZ for ounce. Okay. Now let's just fill it in. Well, what is our cost? Our cost is 72 cents. So I'm just going to write 72 cents per how many ounces? 8 ounce. So here we are. We have our cost per ounce. So we want to know our average rate. How are we going to go from 8 ounces to just 1 ounce? That's what I want to know. How do I go from 8 ounces to 1 ounce? If I'm going to the grocery store and I want to know the best deal, okay? I want to save my money, especially during this quarantine, okay? What is the best price on the cost of spring water? What is the best deal? Well, I want to know what am I paying for just 1 ounce of water? So I'm going to take my 8 and divide it by 8, because 8 divided by 8 equals 1. If I divide this by 8, I'm going to divide my 72 cents by 8. So if we take a look on the calculator, I'm going to have 0.72 divided by 8. And we get 0.09 or 900ths. Also in money terms, it's just 9 cents. Everybody see that? So 72 cents divided by 8, we get 9 cents. So what we're saying here is it's going to cost for just 1 ounce of spring water, it's costing me 9 cents. Okay? So determining on other costs of spring waters, this may be the best deal. If not, you would want to go with the cheapest cents. So what is the cost of the spring water? It's 9 cents per ounce. Or you say per 1 ounce. Okay. Don't forget to show your work in this packet or on a separate sheet of paper is fine. Okay. And here they set up a bucket is leaking after 3 hours. The bucket has leaked 3/4 of an ounce. How many ounces per hour is the bucket leaking? Again, here are key terms, ounces per hour. So they set up ounce per hours. Fill it in. How many ounces? There's 3/4 ounces. And how many hours? 3 hours. We want to just get to 1 hour here. So again, we want to divide this by 3. So we're dividing by 3. If we divide 3 divided by 3, we're going to divide 3/4 by 3, which is what they did here. 3/4 divided by 3 is the same thing because we're dividing and it's fractions. We're going to take 3/4 times, well, what's the reciprocal of 3 over 1? 1/3. Okay? So we have 3/4 times 1/3